fight on the landing ground.
Thank you for joining us. You are listening to A Radio, and this is the Morning Moment. We're on weekdays, 11:45 Eastern. Follow us on Spreaker.com and click on the like button. Maybe, just maybe, the rumours that have been going around about the Democratic Party are starting to mature. What do I mean? Look at the facts. More and more left-wing members of Congress are being elected under somewhat dubious conditions, shall we say. Cortez, for example, a member of two parties, that of the Democratic Socialists of America and the Democrat Party. One wonders how that can be. Her elections clearly won by adjusting the time of year that it was run, knowing that many of the citizens eligible to vote in that area either wouldn't bother or weren't even in town. A clear manipulation of the voting system in the Midwest, allowing someone who is clearly anti-Jewish and anti-American to become a member of Congress, and is also now on the brink of being able to have access to national security secrets. It beggars belief that they could even be allowed into the country, let alone be elected to a position of such power and responsibility. Now turn your eyes to the left coast and wonder how the Democrats could win so decisively in all those districts. Defies logic, doesn't it? It almost reminds you of those heady days in Iraq when Saddam Hussein won by 99.98% of the vote. I'm sure you remember those days. And you know they're still looking for that 0.2% even now. Ah yes, and then there's ballot harvesting in California. Does anyone remember Acorn and what they got up to? Clearly not. Certainly not in California. Or maybe they do. So now we come to the top Democrat who lies continually every single day. Every single day. Who clearly was aware of what Hillary Clinton was up to prior to 2016, but said nothing. So you have to wonder that the rumours that have been going around outside of politics, in other words outside of Washington, that being the attack, the constant attack on the then president-elect and now president, were orchestrated from the very top. And I don't mean Hillary Clinton. I'll be following up on the attacks in the next few days. But the person I'm talking about is Nancy Pelosi. And she must have been involved at the time. Must have been involved. Which meant she was involved in receiving information from foreign sources. Consider that. Receiving information from foreign intelligence. As there have been more than one very high members of the party caught with unauthorized personnel accessing classified computers who subsequently disappear out of the United States, escaping any chance of prosecution. It makes you wonder about that, doesn't it? Because what would they uncover if they were prosecuted and put on trial? Would they reveal political control by a foreign power? Perhaps. Who knows? Because they're out of the country and they can't be prosecuted. Perhaps, of course, it's only perhaps, that instead of looking at the shiny object in Pelosi's left hand, that is obstruction of the President of the United States in all aspects, we should be looking at the stack of evidence hidden behind her back, also in plain sight, of course, but metaphorically behind her back. You know what? Shakespeare comes to mind. I think he said something like, "Methinks she doth protest too much." Well, maybe she does. Maybe there needs to be a whole new investigation. One that starts in Washington, D.C. and ends up in, I don't know, let's say California, where Mr. Schiff lives, and maybe in New York City, not for President Trump, but how about Senator Schumer and his shady dealings? And what about having a look into the suspicious activities of Mr. Soros? He has several arrest warrants out for him in foreign countries. Why would they be doing that? And he's heavily linked to the Democrat Party. Isn't that cause for investigation? I would go as far as to say the corruption in the Democrat Party runs so deep, that America might have to take unprecedented steps to call on a friendly foreign power, maybe even, I don't know, let's say, a friendly Middle East country, a Democrat country in the Middle East. Let's have a think, Israel, to investigate so that no undue influence or power could be placed on any individual or group being investigated. After all, if there's nothing there, there's nothing to hide, is there? But using the Democrats' own mantra, we all know there's something rotten in Denmark. We just have to keep digging until we can indict someone for something. Isn't that right, Mr. Democrat? You wouldn't want different rules for one party than the other, would you? Or would you? Maybe the mainstream media is deliberately attacking President Trump every single day to distract you, the American citizen, from the real corruption, from the real deceit, that of corruption and interference by foreign powers, not by President Trump, but by the Democrat Party, who seek to overthrow a democratically elected President of the United States. Looking as an outsider, as I do, sometimes it's easier to see the wood for the trees. Now, the reason I say that is simple, is that we have a corrupt and communist government in this country. And I do say communist because they won't allow any views other than theirs. Examples such as climate change come to mind, and unconstitutional hate speech, which violates our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Probably Americans don't know about that, but they do. And this is what they do. The Liberals in Canada are very, very similar, and they're very closely linked to the Democrats in the United States. So if you think it doesn't matter to you what happens here, ask yourself this. Why is Obama up here all the time? Why is Soros a chief advisor to Trudeau, who's also a key donor to the Democrat Party? It's all linked. And it all goes back to one person, the top of the Democrat Party, Nancy Pelosi. I think, looking from the outside, that it's way past time that Nancy Pelosi is investigated. She needs to be investigated for powers beyond her office. And that can't happen while there's so much influence in the FBI and there's so much influence inside the Justice Department. The holdovers from Obama and, quite honestly, the holdovers from Clinton. And I don't mean Hillary. These people are so deeply embedded into American society, and they're also so deeply embedded into Canadian society. And one final point. Why do you think that dossier came from an MI5 agent? Or was it MI6? Who knows? I don't know what he was. Because the British government didn't want President Trump to succeed either, because of the deep state there. But the deep state there is communist. It's been proved time and time again that the security services in the UK are deeply infested with communists. Call them what they are? I do. They call them Russians. I call them communists. And why would a party even consider nominating a candidate who spent his honeymoon in Moscow? Makes you think, doesn't it? Because once a communist, always a communist. And I, for one, don't trust Nancy Pelosi. I don't think she is what you think she is. And I think that applies to a lot of Democrats. Maybe it's time that you look at that second party and wonder, is it all it appears to be? And that's my comment. You can find more at aradio.wordpress.com, where you can find links to us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Gab and email. We're also on Spotify. Just go to the podcast section and type Canadian Politics with a twist and you'll find us. We are continuing to reach out to you, so please pass on these links. Please click on the follow button on Spreaker.com. You can listen to all our morning moments at Spreaker.com under A Radio. That's EHRADIO, A Radio, and click on the like button. And you can hear a review of our morning moments on WHBJ-DB, News Talk Radio on Spreaker.com. Join us and many others. And you can find all our podcasts and morning moments at aradio.wordpress.com. Click on the Morning Moments tab.